From project reviews to incredible interviews, along with the general things in Web3, Craig's Crypto Corner covers the space in a fun and engaging way. We dive in so our listeners can conceptualize, plan, strategize, and implement their very next move. We are quickly becoming a platform that enriches and supports the overall foundation of Web3. In order to grow, you need your voice to be heard. If you have infinite curiosity, then Craig's Crypto Corner is just for you. Come join us.
You're tuning into CraigOcPodcast, the best in Web3, NFT, and cryptocurrency technology. Great reviews, incredible interviews with the leading people in the Web3 ethos, and just the general things Web3. Today's guest is a global marketing powerhouse, Fiona Naughton, who is the Chief Marketing Officer at CoinZoom. Calls herself a natural-born marketer, and quite frankly, it shows. Fiona's journey began in gaming with Sega, moved through in-flight entertainment with Virgin, and into pioneering mobile phone marketing in the UK. She then went on to sharpen her brand expertise at Mars Inc., working globally in cities like Philadelphia, Geneva, and Tokyo. In the mid-2000s, she transitioned into tech, helping to take BlackBerry from enterprise to everyday consumers, driving brand growth at HTC and PayPal, both of which entered Interbrand's Global Top 100 under her leadership, and positioning fintech trailblazers like Venmo and Robinhood as household names. She later went full crypto at Meta, contributing to Libra Diem Project, and now leads marketing at CoinZoom. Fiona holds a master's in economics from Cambridge and has dedicated her career to mentoring female talent in tech and remains laser focused on advancing financial inclusion. She's not just shaping the conversation around crypto, she's turning bold ideas into practical, real-world solutions. Having worked closely with her, I've picked up some powerful strategies and insights that continue to influence how I think about marketing and brand building. Let's get into it. GM Fiona, how are you doing?
Couldn't be better, Craigo. Thank you so much for the opportunity to chat to you today. That was quite the lead-in. Gosh, makes me sound like a million years old. In flight entertainment. We were the first to do it on Virgin, and now, of course, it's all over the place. And we did an SMS competition. Can you remember back in the day on analog mobile phones?
Oh my God. I remember the BlackBerry phone. And I'm not going to let us get too far off because you and I have a really good connection. But I remember the BlackBerry and the StarTech, and I thought it was the coolest thing. And I actually took my dad's phone one day to school. He couldn't find the phone. Now, luckily, these devices are like our second brain. It's sad to say. It's true. So he didn't go missing much, but those analog phones, wow. And the SMS, your breadth of experience is unreal. I want to dive into this with you, right? What makes CoinZoom stand out in such a crowded field of crypto exchanges, especially, and I want to separate this as a US regulated platform?
Well, I think the place to always start is the why. Why did CoinZoom want to do this in the first place? I think if you know our history, we're not your mama's coin exchange, crypto exchange. We've seen a lot of years in experience. We've done a lot of jobs. I think we're probably all sort of enterprise grade. I call us the expendables. For Todd and Ben, particularly as founders, they had a history in foreign exchange and had built an enormous and global powerhouse business in foreign exchange, a successful exit, which is always what a founder wants, and then realized quite quickly that it's exactly the same with crypto. It's a 24/7 market. It trades in pairs. It's volatile by nature. And so all of the expertise that they put together on the Forex side, they brought back together. And again, another great testament to Todd and to the team was that more or less everybody came back and said, we're going to do it again, and we're going to build an exchange that we want to build, that really works, that uses all of our expertise. So the core of why CoinZoom exists is just a great story, and it's built on years of expertise, knowledge, and know-how. And I think, lots of people have started with a crypto dream. Not many people have started with that legacy of having done something very similar before, but knowing all of the catches and the gotchas, and building a platform that's really, really designed for crypto.
You know, I actually posted a video today, which I'm creating some content as we were talking about Instagram, TikTok, and a little bit of YouTube Shorts. And one of the things that really impresses me about you guys is I go from the CEO to the CTO to the CMO to customer service. Everybody really cares and is truly passionate at CoinZoom. And that's, to me, one of the reasons when someone says, why are you collaborating? What is it? And I also think that there's a lot of people in this space. I say this is marketing 101. And for you, when you stand and you look out at whether it's NFT communities or meme communities, it's sort of like it's a show on marketing and how people really reach and connect with their audiences. When you take that away, you work for global giants like PayPal and Meta, as we were saying on that intro. How is that experience, right, shaped your approach to building trust and credibility at CoinZoom? Because that's a long, you have a long storied history, and I don't mean to make you feel old, but that breadth of history, bringing it into, as I say, the emerging internet, is pretty powerful.
Well, I think anything with money, we have to start with the human soul. Money is scary. It's isolating. It's oxygen. It causes some of the great moments in life, but it also causes some of the awful things in life. And most couples argue about money. Money itself it can be your friend or your enemy. And so that is the first place to start, is the humanity piece. And I think we've got basically three things going on when we talk about trust. PayPal, very trusted brand. It had come up, as an e-commerce brand with eBay, but then went into a full fintech when Dan Schulman became CEO and became much broader in terms of the things that it offers, but a widely trusted brand. Meta, when, had a dream, an early dream around being able to offer, what will look like the stable coins of the future now, but didn't have that same sort of gift of trust. There was a lot more skepticism on the part of consumers about would I put my money with Meta or Facebook, as was, and around all that, the world is becoming digital with trust, and digital is different for people. You can't look at your money, you can't count it physically. You've got a physical distance from digital money. You've got an emotional distance from digital money, and you've also got an intellectual distance. How does it actually work? So to build trust in this sort of changing environment is really hard. And we did some really good research back in the day with a company called Firefish. My fave friend, the punk professor of research, I used to call him Dr. Bob Cook. And we looked at trust, and we found out that there's two layers. One is that functional trust, how you do what you do. Do you do it, consistently, repetitively? Is it something I can rely on? That old thing of nobody ever got fired for choosing IBM, that type of trust.
Right.
And then there's emotional trust. Do I trust why you're doing what you're doing? Do I trust your values as to, you are somebody who will take my money as seriously as I take my money? Right. And that's where you start to see these differences in brands is where that emotional trust is not there, or that emotional trust is a given.
I know, I love that. And by the way, I want to just give a couple quick shout outs to people that I've seen here. Pulse, 1995, Shabbat, 2%. Talking about marketing and strategy, right? And getting the message of CoinZoom out there. I want to be very clear on any space or any YouTube. I don't care how many people are in, but I want to get the message of why I believe, and I want to be very clear on my intention of why I believe in this U.S. regulated crypto exchange of CoinZoom, why I am so, bullish in the Web3 terminology on what we're doing here. When I say what we're doing is a collaboration, is that I'm always going to want to create content to onboard people. It's, to onboard my wife, literally sitting at lunch, and she now has some crypto in her wallet that I've sent her that's there. It's safe. I set up the 2FA. I don't have to worry about the DeFi wallets. I like that side of it. I like self-sovereignty, custody, care, and control. I just want to be clear, but I want to say to the people who are in this space tonight, I appreciate you. I don't care about the grease trap. I want to be clear, but my intentions to want to get the brand of CoinZoom out there as the best regulated crypto exchange, I'm willing to go there. And I just want to make that super, super clear, just in case anybody wants to question Craig O and my journey over these past 3 years as a content creator. I work hard to make sure that credibility is at the forefront, and working with you guys has been a blessing. What is the strongest case for building financial freedom with crypto? And just kind of secondary that, or just to build onto that, what role does CoinZoom have in helping people get started in their overall journey? I mean, I gave a quick example from my end, but what are your thoughts?
So I think a lot of this, and I've really, really enjoyed working at the frontier of things, you know, whether it was the first SMS competition in the UK with Vodafone, or whether it's, you know, the first 4-inch screen in the back of your airplane seat. This sort of change and this sort of, you know, the way that you can change the human experience, that's always been where I've spent my time in my career. And I think the lesson we learn again and again, there has to be a good reason for somebody to just disturb their perpetual motion and do something a little bit different. So there has to be a compelling reason for that. And then you have to make it so that it's not hard to do. And not just that, it's easy to tell somebody else that you've done it. And I think this is one of the things that, you know, in the crypto world, we still have some work to do on the story. But ultimately, because crypto, you know, is as little or as big as you want it to be, some of the traits of running, you know, good financial habits and having a healthy financial lifestyle really work well with crypto. Our card gives rewards. On average, on a month, you know, our average card user earns around $50 in rewards. Now, that's money that's given to them that they can save, they can invest, they can do something a little special for a week. You can have it be the king of date night, which I know you like to do, Craigo. Yes. But those are all good sorts of habits. We have a very low cost on-ramp. So we're not charging percentage rates of, you know, of your initial sort of deposits, so that it's easily accessible. People can get on. They feel like, you know, that fees are transparent, they're fair, and they're in the right place. And then I think there's also that sense of, in the financial world, everybody's looking for a trusted advisor. It's a scary thing. I don't want to be scammed. I don't want to do something that's, you know, going to hurt me in the long run. So you look and reach out for others and see what's your experience. And so that's another element that for us at CoinZoom is very important, is that people can talk well around, you know, I got on board. It took me 3 minutes. Well, that was easy. Selfie, ID, easy. I'm in.
I watched my wife do it. It was 3 minutes. It was a little hemming and hawing because, you know, crypto is not, it's so new. And, you know, we say we're so early. I hear, you know, Paul say that a lot. We're so early. You don't even understand how early we really are. And that's powerful. And my dear friend Matt says the same thing. And you're often reminded, because everybody's looking at Bitcoin price going, oh, I wish I had bought it at this. And now it's this. And, you know, when we had Todd Crosslin on, I was blown away that the number one crypto, and keep spending it, by the way, on CoinZoom, by all means, was Bitcoin. Out of all things, stablecoin and Bitcoin was number one. Like, what are you doing? That just blew my mind.
It's amazing, isn't it? But again, giving people, we talk about financial freedom, and it sometimes it's a lot of puffery and brands doing performative things. Yeah. Financial freedom is your choice, your wallet at the time you make that choice.
Absolutely.
We have seen somebody, maybe you've been eyeing up, I don't know, something for over a time. The volatility in the Bitcoin price might mean that it costs, you know, $200 last week, but it costs $190 this week. That might be affordable to you. Or whatever way you do your mental math. But what it does is it puts the power in the hands of the person making the decision. They can flip between wallets. We've got lots of stablecoin users. We've got Bitcoin and ETH. We've got, you know, people spending out dust, you know, their Doge and SHIB that they haven't thought about or loved for a while. You know, so really, this is one of the wonderful revelations about the card, is that when you empower people to make decisions on the spot in their own mind, and you don't dumb it down for them, yep, they actually, you know, are making some very clear and clever decisions for themselves.
Let me throw this to you, right? And by the way, I appreciate everybody that's in the room. If you haven't retweeted to space, love you too. Just add a comment, you know, massage that algorithm a little bit so we get some more organic. I believe in that heavily. You know, I've been seeing a lot of commercials, and I know that you're professionally, on a professional level, friendly with a lot of the other exchanges. I want to keep this broad blanket, so we keep it very professional and then PC in that regard. And I'll watch some of the commercials, and while they have their CMOs, I see that you guys are moving in a different position. Your timing, you're more calculated. Our conversations before we collaborated together, what type of content, what's the messaging, how are we marketing, what does this look like? why am I seeing so many really bad commercials of people falling off bridges and people who rugged projects talking about how much XRP they got? Why am I seeing that? And is there a part of marketing from your sense? Now you're the CMO, so I got to ask this question. Does that work on the general public, or do you think that's almost like repellent and let them do it?
Commercials, right? Commercials. It's almost more exciting than the Super Bowl itself. Is arguing about which commercial makes you, and you will have commercials that you hate and commercials that you love. The most important thing, first off, is we're talking about them. So that means they got attention. In attention deficit disorder economy, where you can't even pay for attention if you do rubbish marketing, the fact we're talking about them is important.
Okay.
I think the next thing also is that when you make a choice to be something or to do something, you're also making a choice not to be something and not to do the other thing. If these CMOs are making those choices clearly, then maybe they're meeting their objectives,
their quotas. So let's circle over that a little bit more, and let's go. When you think about it, how does crypto utility, user experience, and long-term engagement to replace traditional financial products that do not serve the 99%? How do we define crypto utility when you look at it from a long-term game plan? Because when I think about it, and we're going to work towards the Zoom token, I want to talk about that and the marketing around that. But when you think about utility and CoinZoom, what are the first things that come to mind?
Well, I think the table stakes are, again, as we said, it's easy to do. You can trust it. It performs the same every single time. So something like a ZoomMe, it should be instant free, international P2P, right? We know how P2P works, should work the same, does it the same every time. So that's the entry level, so that people understand and they trust the sort of the network of transactions that they're doing. But the more important piece, and again, this bit of why would you tell somebody about it? Or why would you become a crypto believer? Or why would you actually sort of, shaking your wrists at the TV when they're down speaking crypto again, is because that transaction, might have made the difference between your mom in another country getting their medication a week earlier, just because they didn't have to wait a week or go do a cash pickup to get a remittance or get charged and gouged for an exchange rate. Or pick up fees or all of those sorts of things, go to a sketch part of town to pick up money that they need just to live their lives. It's those are the aspects that make utility really meaningful.
And utility also can be relayed to global remittance, which I was looking over, the genius, not the big, beautiful bill, but I was looking that over and I was just absolutely blown away that is in there along with KYC, anti-money laundering. So I was looking that over because maybe we'll talk a little bit about that. And to me, I think when I think global remittance, that is a huge utility, just like the Zoom token, just like the pro trading feature, which is something that I used when I needed some of the Zoom rewards, that 5% Zoom rewards that I had earned. I wanted to convert some of that into actual, cash. I just did, and I was able to do that. And I wanted to actually just test the platform out, and it was really easy to use, very user-friendly. Last week we had on 3 meme communities, and it was quite an interesting space. Got a lot of good feedback, a lot of people rallying around the things that we're doing, the things that I'm doing. I'm grateful for that. And definitely I always say, I like the press and the attention, so long as we keep our reputations where they need to be from a credibility standpoint. When we talked to Mystic, who is from Quack Life, a meme community on Solana, I want to give her a shout out. And I want to make mention of that because we want to talk about women in this space. And I'm actually friendly with probably 2 or 3 women in this space. And I'm absolutely blown away by how they approach, I don't want to say male dominated, but, a mostly male field. Tell me a little bit about your work alongside of women, because I also get to work with another incredible woman behind the scenes at CoinZoom. So big shout out to her. But tell me a little bit about women in crypto. I mean, such a small space. How do we get more women involved?
Yeah. Now, can I just go back a couple of clicks just to a couple of things? So the Genius Act, obviously, creating a very clear platform for stablecoins. What happens a week after? Amazon and Walmart, 2 of the biggest commercial e-commerce based brands in the world, talk about stablecoin. That is, that is absolute juggernaut for adoption.
Yeah.
But it talks to why the system needs to be rewiring, why people should have free movement of money. So, so Genius as a bill is a mass adoption vehicle, which is fantastic. Your space last week, what a spicy time we had. It was fantastic.
Loved it.
What I really loved about it is, between Mystic, wonderful storyteller, even listening to her was self-care for me. I just, I loved a founder again with a great why and then a new way to deliver, her brand through to the world. And then we had Peasy and we had Guardian, two very different storytellers, two very different species in the jungle, but all being able to give their own point of view as to why they think the market is this, why timing is that. And I think, again, this is why I love crypto, because there's space for all of us.
And by the way, I just want to do a quick thing. Shabbat had texted me, guys, do I sound like a robot in spaces? I just want to see. Give me a thumbs up if I'm okay. And by the way, big shout out to Guardian. Can you guys hear me? I don't know. Maybe they can, maybe they can't. I'm hoping that they can. I'm not getting a thumbs up. All right, Anthony, how do I sound in there? I sound okay? No, not good. What's going on? Uh-oh. Hold on. I put it off. Yeah, hold on 1 second, Fiona. I love tech. Isn't this so much fun? As we're talking, at least they can hear you. We had 3 vastly different personalities.
Yeah.
Vastly different. We had one person, and I like Peasy. I want to be clear. I like that kind of rugged, raw degen. He's really great intentions for the space. I'm excited to see. They've been, I want to say 7 months. Don't quote me on that. And I was actually in one of their spaces today. Then you had Guardian, who does a lot of great in-depth TA, really diving in and just has a really great cadence and way about him. And then you had Mystic, just really a soft, kind soul, but also really focused on building her real world business. And I love how all of those personalities came together. And I welcomed at the end, there was so much, what's funny is, you get a couple little comments and everybody just kind of swarmed in and was just like, we love it. This was great. Yeah. And I like that level of attention economy. And as we're always saying, we're positioning, but it's funny that you bring up, there were just 3 vastly different personalities. Tony's working, by the way, guys, on the spaces on that. But Ken, what were your thoughts on last week's space, the good, the bad, and the fuddly?
Well, I will firstly admit to a little economic major girl crush on Guardian, and just the intellectual rigor and the sense around looking at the macro economic effects, what really gets the market. Not necessarily a message everybody wanted to hear, but delivered with such cool pragmatism and such good intellectual thought. I was blown away by that. But then also as a brand builder, Peasy is telling the story, is in culture. It has this sense, it has this vibe. Yeah. It's all about the vibes now. So, yes. Again, very, very enjoyable time. What we see, though, the sort of feedback from the people in the community, we see, I've got Disco Darth on today, right?
I love it. Yes.
See the light and dark of the community with the response to the space. Yeah. What you've got is a very sort of lively and well-received conversation that we saw loads of great feedback, lots of learning points. And then you get a little bit of the sort of.
I love it, but it's so funny, but I welcome that, and I say there's 2 things, and we're going to talk a little bit about Zoom, I promise, but I think this is something that the Web3 community can relate to. Is you have social currency and you have the attention economy. The social currency, I think, is the TA involved with grabbing people's attention through some of the things that you do, social, the connections, and then the attention economy is, if you have a blowhorn to your mouth and you're screaming out into the audience, how many people can hear you? And when I was in the Peasy space today, what was interesting is we were saying this is kind of like, we didn't want to use the word derivative. And we think about the boys club meta that around Pepe, Matt Fury, who, I think he did about 500 different characters. And so Pepe is something that's huge in the space. And one day I said in my portfolio for my children, I have 2, I said, one day they're going to have some Pepe in their portfolio, the retirement fund. And that will be because years ago in 2025, Dad had in 2023 and 2024 had collected Pepe. And to right now, people can laugh that off. And so when you see people building the Peasies, and big shout out to Yepe and Landwolf. I mean, Landwolf was my first love. It's the one that I got introduced to by Shabbat. What you're talking about is communities that want to be strong, build up something that has a financial value, but they're equal parts fragile. And that's really something to be aware of. And it's the same with NFTs. When NFT season happens, you hear this little bit of FUD or someone says something and it takes people off track. But the really good people, they get back on that metaphorical horse and they keep riding through town because nothing can mess with greatness. And that to me is what CoinZoom is. Facts, along with me. Let's talk about the ZoomMe feature because I think global.
Hang on a minute. We missed out on the women, so we can't do that. We've got to go back to the women.
You threw me off. Yes.
No, it's my fault. I took
this is
the
good.
Spicy cooking from last week. Right. So what we do around International Women's Day and that sort of stuff is we celebrate the women of crypto because they are heroes. They are voices that need to talk more sense to be heard. They need to have more shoulders, to be brave enough to speak up. But when they are, the Hester Pierces of this world, look what she's done, in putting a breath of fresh air and clarity and purpose into the regulatory environment. Our Senator Cynthia Loomis, who is tirelessly, she could dance with Sailor all night long, talking about, how we can evangelize, the crypto world. So we need to celebrate the women more. But not just that, there is an ugly side to the crypto culture where, you've got the Lambos and the two hot blondes in the front seat and, this is the future crypto. That's not helpful.
No.
I understand why people enjoy it, but it's not helpful. And when we see, for instance, and we hear the stories all the time on CoinZoom, women who are running their own businesses with a crypto wallet. Women who are putting a little nest egg together because one of the days they're going to break free from the situation they're in. And crypto enables them to do that. Women who are coaching like you, coaching their kids on crypto about this. This is generational wealth. This is your seat at the table. Nobody's going to have to give you permission for this. You can take permission for yourself. This is you looking after future you. And women have a great role in that. And I think that, that's why, ultimately, don't mess with it with a mum. Mum's going to tell you what for. And mums will be one of the major vehicles that will help us with adoption and will help educate those around them that this is a great way to go.
I love that. And it's so important because you really you dive into how valuable it is and just a real world example of just those two things, women running their own businesses, having this empowerment, and being able to do that alongside of CoinZoom is an amazing thing. Am I still on? Fiona, can you see me? Am I good? Okay, good. It's so funny. The tech night here. It's good though. I'm having fun. I love it when everything crashes and we're still here. I want to talk about global remittance. And I want to talk about the ZoomMe feature and how powerful I find it to be. So when 3 months ago, almost 3 months now, it came on, I was like, I want to, I want to get a bunch of Zoom token and I want to be able to share with people in our community so they can see how fast and easy the process is. Why don't we just talk from like a full on level worldwide? What is global remittance to those that might not know? And why is it so powerful? And how is that part of CoinZoom?
Okay, so 1 billion people in the world rely on remittances to thrive. 1 in 4 children live away from their parents because their parents have moved away to work or be safe or to bring some goodness back for the family in the world. 690 billion dollars moved through remittances out and into America. And I think the overall global figure is around 900 billion.
Yep.
And $65 billion of fees were charged for those remittances, which is bigger than the GDP of around 120 countries.
Wow.
So that's how much people are paying to move their money to support their families, to educate their children, to get, necessary essentials to run their small businesses and do all the things that people do with money. So it's a huge movement of money, which is why crypto and blockchain technology is so important in this area. It's a real use case. It's about putting food on the table as much as it's about, being able to be a gig worker, a creator, be able to sell your products across borders and do everything that the global economy should afford us to do. So as a sort of just that movement of money piece, this is probably the most compelling use case right now. And hence stable coins have become such a huge, $1 trillion market valuation, is because stable coins are the first real, way to be able to do this cross-border money movement digitally, instantly, and for a reasonable cost.
And I love that. And I think more people need to, have that breadth of education. I think when I'm putting out the content, I at first I heard global remittance, but it never really connected to just how powerful it is. And what you're speaking to are the choke points, the financial choke points, where and how you can move money, whose control it's under. One of the things we talked about the real stories, and you said, Craig, and as a marketing expert, when I said at the end of this, my introduction, as I said, I've learned a lot on strategy from you. And I think you learn by making some mistakes, making some of those like powerful corrections. But one of the things that I find in my everyday use is that I have, say, on and I believe in security through obscurity, but I have about 3 or 4 different out of the 40 cryptos that are currently on CoinZoom. I have about 3 or 4 different cryptos, and just enough spending money for the gas, for food. And before I go to checkout, I can literally pick which crypto I want to spend. So as soon as I hand my Visa card, or I say tap and go, right, it's converting with that crypto, and that interaction of spending that crypto is being done behind the scenes. And for me, that's the one thing that's so valuable, is that we've got all these great communities, and they're rallying to build value. As we say, shout out to Peasy, shout out to Landwolf, and all the boys Club Beta, and Pepe, and the Trump token. We'll see if that makes a comeback. It was an interesting topic of debate. But either way, you want to keep your money moving. And the way that I see it, I'm curious into your view, is if you're not utilizing money or gains, and I'm not saying that you G'd out on a bag or you sold something, right? It's not a shame thing. You buy in those dips. I'm a long-term believer in what crypto has to offer, especially out of stable coins, because I saw that post you did the other night. But when a CoinZoom account did the other day, which was great. It was a great post. It had the video, and it talked about how stable coins are now becoming more normal, to where you wouldn't hear these individuals and these institutions talking about it in the way that they are. When you talk about retail, one of the people I said is, Craig, when you make a game, what do you do? I said, well, can I pay my mortgage? Can I pay my children's camp? Can I pay for dinner? Can I keep the lights on? Those are things that are really valuable. And if you're thinking about it from a practical standpoint versus, as you said, the 2 blondes, that was your words, and the Lamborghini, that doesn't work for me. As a married man with 2 children, that doesn't work for me. For some, it does. If you're in your 20s and you're doing your thing, by all means, save up to the Pico top. But for me, one of the things that I want to see in this space is, I know, and we're going to talk a little bit about the Zoom token, is that you're going to see years, not just cycles, because we talk about things in cycles, but CoinZoom is going to be around for years to come. And I look at some of the competitors, and I just think, personally, maybe I'm a little biased because I've been working with you guys for a while, but having an inside track to seeing what's going on, how you're building with credibility, and the level of professionalism. But as I, just kind of want to tie this up a little bit on this part, when I get to use my crypto in real time at checkout, that to me says if your crypto is moving, then you're adding value to the overall ecosystem. What are your thoughts around that as you see people, picking up in DeFi, and they have the opportunity to bring some of their crypto over? And I'm not telling them to, but to bring it over to CoinZoom and to have it there as well safely, but be able to use in real time with their CoinZoom Visa debit card. What are your thoughts around that?
I think, so again, the function of money in human life, it isn't about how much you have. So this is a very interesting revelation, but of the 60% of Americans who are living paycheck to paycheck, it isn't about their average salary. It's about how they live. And the 2 things that differentiate between those who are financially stable and those who are not is, do you have a plan? Do you know what you're using your money for in the longer term? And can you withstand an emergency? So if the heater bursts or your tires blow out or whatever else, can you get your hands on that $400 or whatever it is you need to be able to put that right and not bankrupt your family for the month? So with those two things in mind, if you have the flexibility of having lots of things in your wallet, crypto coins, etc., money that you can access instantly, you have the ability to choose relative values. So it might have been $400, it might be $380, it might be $420, but you have all of those sort of means by which to be flexible about how you address the emergency, but also how you accumulate for the long term. So $20 of Bitcoin, we've all seen the graphs. If you've been doing $20 of Bitcoin because you weren't having pumpkin spices every week, imagine where you'd be right now. You know, that becomes a college fund very quickly. And so those are the sorts of things that having utility, having a range of tokens, having a sense of, okay, I've got stable coins, I can move really quickly because I've got digital dollars that can move at the pace of the internet. Those are the sorts of things that just put power in your pocket. Whereas before, I have to go to the bank. I have to ask a man, usually. I have to ask a man, can I have my money? They have to say whether I can have access to my money. And then all of a sudden, there's all of these other things. It's 501. Oh, dear, I'm screwed. You know, so all of those other things that were part of what the system was like before, the utility, the flexibility, the responsiveness, you know, the creativity, all of those things are part of what a crypto-enabled world looks like. So you've got more chances. You just got more chances to be okay.
As a guy, I never thought about that, and I appreciate you presenting that before us because, you know, in this space, that's, you know, again, a lot of men, you know, we never think about who do we have to ask permission for money, and that's something that, you know, it's an important point to bring up. When I had on, you know, Todd Crossland, we had talked about the Zoom token. I'd also talked about it with Paxton Powers, who's the CTO. And, you know, when we think about the Zoom token, he said, think about it like frequent flyer miles. It has this value. And you know, when I'm talking to some of these meme communities as we've had on and to certain, you know, other guests that we've had over the past weeks in our biweekly X spaces, you know, one of the things that I say is Zoom token is not to compete with other tokens. It's a unique token unto itself, and it has a value so long as you interact and engage with the ecosystem. If you're already utilizing a crypto exchange, and hopefully it's regulated, and it's even better, I think, if it's US regulated, that if you're utilizing that, why would you not want to spend your crypto in real time and earn another token that is completely different? It's not a meme. It's something unique unto itself. And I believe over time, as the ecosystem of users onto CoinZoom grows, we're going to see that grow. Talk to me a little bit about the Zoom token from a marketing standpoint. And then I maybe have a little bit of an alpha insight question for you, that if you were a meme community dev or voice of a community, how would you approach? But talk to me a little bit about the Zoom token from a marketing standpoint and how that's catching attention.
Sure. So the loyalty sort of mindset is a good way of thinking about it. And of course, those of you who have, you know, your gold cards on your airlines and all that sort of stuff know that you get wafted into the lounge when you've got a layover, or you get boarded early so you can put your oversized suitcase up in the rack and all that good stuff. It's an enabler. And really, if you're going to think, right, what are my 5 choices today that can enable me to do a little bit of good for my financial situation? Okay, I'm going to pay my bills on my debit card. There's a bit of Zoom token. I'm going to buy a little bit of money, let's say I buy some Tether just to have there ready should I need it. So I'm going to do some trading. I have lower fees because I hold Zoom tokens. I can pay in Zoom tokens so it doesn't hit my net dollar amount. You know, all of these things are sort of the Zoom token enables you to do things cheaper, faster, you know, at an elevated level. On a more macro scale, you're absolutely right. If people come to CoinZoom because now they're not getting 15% off at Nordstrom, but they're getting real crypto rewards that they can spend and use. If they are actually sending money home to mum for no cost every week, and actually because it's free, they send a little bit more often, because they're not paying transaction fees. So they're not waiting to once a month for one set of fees. They're actually giving her, $20 every couple of days. So she's never without, some money in her purse. Those sorts of things are what people will come to CoinZoom for. And so the Zoom token will be, that sort of that oil in the system, and that sense of, oh, you know what? I don't have to spend cash. I can just use my Zoom tokens for fees. Or, you know what? I'm going to get myself to silver on the Zoom tokens. I'm going to get more rewards back. So, there's lots of different ways that you can make it work for you. But what it does is just makes, the process of getting on the plane and having the flight, the process of managing your money and, looking after your crypto much easier.
And by the way, as CoinZoom builds in its users, and there's a lot of users, I forget the specific number, so I don't want to throw that out there of how many users, but we're talking hundreds of thousands right now. As the platform grows and grows, and people are utilizing the Zoom token more and more, what do you think? Just asking, not saying to you, you don't have to just nod the head and be like, yeah, I think personally the Zoom token value grows. Now, I want to position this to you. You got to hear last week 3 vastly different meme communities, 2 that are on Ethereum, 1 that's on Solana. You come away, and I know you've got that marketing brain, and I want, when people are here, I say it's sort of like with X Spaces, it's a masterclass on marketing. Like, one of the things that I'm thinking when I'm creating the video is, what is my tonality? How are my hand movements? How are people connecting? How's the audio? How's the visual? And I'm sorry about X Spaces tonight. I don't like that, but I want to continue to be the consummate professional. So you heard these 3 different voices in the space. If you were the head dev or you were the voice of the community or one of the participants, a speaker on a panel, is there a particular strategy around these meme communities that you think would serve, and maybe somebody's listening that might serve them right from a strategy standpoint that could be helpful for them?
Yeah, I think there's 2 aspects to this. The one is the who are you and how do you show up? So that's natural animal magnetism, attraction, charisma. It's the story, all of those things. Somebody needs to be attracted to you. You need to create happiness, surprise, and delight in the way that you communicate. And again, not everybody likes the same things. So you've got to choose your audience and choose your style, tone, and your vernacular, your message to go with that. So that's one part of it. The other part of it is, and are you going to be here tomorrow?
Yeah.
So you need to talk about who's building, what's the real rigor and the robustness of what you're making. What is the longevity, the purpose, the why that somebody can say as well, I love your smile, but I don't think you're going to be here tomorrow. So, you need to build for today and get the attraction, but also make sure that you're convincing people that there's a tomorrow and a tomorrow and a tomorrow. And I always applaud, as we are friendly with all the exchanges, and we support, we want the tide to raise all the ships. But I really do support those who talk about building and shipping, because we are what we do, not what we say. And, there's been a lot of blah, blah in the crypto world that has not led to good things. Yeah. But where we've been building and where we've been doing what we say, we now got a situation where Walmart and Amazon want all of their shoppers to have a stable coin. That's taken years and years of integrity, of hard work, of strong words, and of building the project. So if I was in a meme community, I would make as much sort of romance around my dev guys as I would around my talker guys, my marketing people. And I would build that integrity in what we're doing, and how we're going to be around tomorrow, as much as how nice we look and sound today.
It's funny that you said that. So the connection between dev and the marketing. Do you think that those meetings, when they're doing their behind the scenes meeting, because I think certain things are fragmented, right? If all you're focused on is the money number go up, you've really lost that. And I think what I love is the creative art and being in a PZ space today. I was absolutely blown away by how he's able to morph that conversation along with TK, being in the Wolf spaces. I love how the collaboration, but when you have everybody that comes together, different personalities, from the tech standpoint to guys like me, the talker, the voice, bringing it all in. Do you believe that those two groups should be able to communicate with one another like once a month on a group meeting? Is that sort of a thought or an idea for some of these meme communities?
I think it's much closer than that. It's more intimate than that. Marketing and dev want the same outcome. But, I chose CoinZoom because of Paxton Powers. One of the big reasons why I chose it, because what he can't build, I can't sell. So the fact he's given me an embarrassment of riches of things that, I can tell family stories. I can go to the World Bank and say, this is how it works. I can go to the regulator and say, oh, we've done that work. Oh, we don't meet the line of regulation. We go over the top. We don't sell data.
Right.
We look after our customers. We look after their funds, their money, their data, their identities, all of these things. That's because the dev people have built it.
And a little blurb about Paxton Powers, if you can, because I'm just so impressed by Todd Crossland, Paxton Powers, and of course you. Just a little blurb about each of them so that people understand just how powerful this team is at its core.
Well, firstly, I couldn't have chosen a better name for our CTO. Paxton Powers is straight out of the Marvel universe as the guy who can create and invent. But it isn't just him; it's his team as well. We have a whole dev team, mostly based in New Zealand, and they're just super clever. Often, marketing and dev people have natural conflict because the marketing person is always saying, when will it be ready? And the dev person is always saying, you don't understand anything. And, you kind of have this natural conflict. But with those guys, we have conversations about how it works, where's the friction, what if we did this, what if we do that? When you've got that going on between your dev and your marketing people, you really got a very healthy relationship. Yeah. So Paxton was with Todd before at the interbank side. He's worked for Domo and other big sort of enterprises, and he's got a huge sort of universal brain of how to put things together and what is the secret sauce of making it work. So we've got some really neat IP around liquidity and pricing, which is why we often get best price. And, the really savvy traders come to CoinZoom because of some of those advantages. And that's because they really understand the art of trade.
Yep.
And they built all of that through their Forex experience. And then bringing it to crypto, they built the exchange they wanted to build.
I love the fact that you said that the IP around liquidity and pricing. And just it was a couple of weekends ago, I was playing around with the Pro Trade feature. Now, I worked a little bit with ChatGPT to ask some questions, did some screenshots so that I could learn. And I was actually able to position and sell some of my Zoom token and get or maximize the reward. I also realized that when I'm buying and selling crypto, I'm utilizing my Zoom token. And those fees I'm noticing when I calculate them and utilizing ChatGPT to help me figure out what was that number. I'm absolutely impressed because when I don't use the Zoom token, it's quite a bit more expensive. So to see that the value of the overall ecosystem around the Zoom token, and that makes me, as I say, bullish, but it makes me very excited for the future. So speaking of the future, and in shortly, I want to open it up maybe to a little Q&A. If we have the X Spaces operating, is it operating? I don't sound like RoboCop anymore. That's great. My kid will love that, by the way. If we look out 12 to 18 months, what does success look like to you for CoinZoom? What help me understand, we're out into 2026, 2027. Where's CoinZoom? If you were to kind of just take the dart and just kind of throw it out at the board.
Yeah. Well, as I said, we are much more oriented around this sort of adoption model where we have big B2B partners, where we put crypto in places where it naturally belongs. So we have conversations that are going on with traditional finance who want a quick route to crypto services. They see their money go out of the bank or the credit union or whatever the institution is every day to crypto exchanges. We could help customers put all of that in one place. We talk to two-sided networks where you've got, you're sort of like an Uber driver, and you've got as a worker, and you've got a passenger. There's a means of payment. There's lots of micro payments. That sense of being able to do that freely flowing money, mass payouts. Blockchain is beautiful for those sorts of things. So we do a lot of work with the content creators, the two-sided networks. Marketplaces is another big target. And then obviously native on board, where might a digital wallet or a crypto wallet be the absolute dream solution for the person using a device or, having some sort of physical interaction. And I have to say that, obviously the change and the more proactive sense of the regulatory environment means that the conversations, it was hard to have some of those conversations in the shadow of FTX and in the sort of the specter of choke point 2.0 and banks that wouldn't do business with crypto businesses. But now everybody wants to talk about their crypto strategy. If you haven't got an AI strategy and you haven't got a crypto strategy, good night. We won't be talking about you in 2026.
And I always say move slow, be patient. I did a video. I did about 8 different videos today that we're going to be putting out over the next few weeks. One for CoinZoom. So we're kind of going to try out a little bit of TikTok and Instagram and YouTube Reels because I think it's really important. I want to get the message of not only content creation and what I'm learning in the space. I also want to, with good intention, get CoinZoom out there because again, it is my favorite exchange and will be forevermore and continue to use that CoinZoom Visa debit card. Now, I did invite some people up. I don't know, maybe it's going to be a little quick night, a little bit of a quiet night. Fiona, is there anything, and just in case anybody decides that they'd like to come up, you've been invited, those select people. Is there anything that we haven't covered tonight that you would like to, and any words of wisdom from your end?
Well, firstly, I would say the time is now. For all of us who've waged war through the crypto winter, and, for those of us who got choked with the Silicon Valley Bank, Signature Bank, Silvergate Bank situation and have had to be resilient and robust, congratulations, we made it. There is more daylight, there's more sunshine, and there's a positive world coming for us. Stablecoin summer, as we're calling it now. And for all of the meme guys, the NFT guys, and all of the people who, have seen, the light and dark, as we say, the utility and the reason why you were ahead of the game is still true. The Web3 needs this digital magic. And, our kids, all their diplomas will be NFTs. Or everything that comes down as a digital asset that I want to own. It's not yours, it's mine. I want to own it. All of those things will come to pass, but we've just all been really early. We're probably the smartest. There's a few arrows in the back and all that sort of stuff. We're at the frontier, as our bankless friends would say. But we have waged through the dark night, and now we need to move fast and be responsible and talk with integrity because adoption's coming and the rewards will be good.
And a shout out to the bankless DAO. I love the word bankless, in a world that is full of lots of different banks. Funny enough, I've got Samuel Disrael up here. Sam, are you there? Oh, I think he's there. There you are. You there?
I'm here.
All right, perfect. It's funny. Sam is a dear friend of mine, and we had actually, I'd actually set him up on his CoinZoom account. And by the way, did you get that? Did you get some of the USD I had sent you last week?
I did. Thank you. It's so easy to spend too with the CoinZoom debit card.
It's not hard. It's like you think that actually sounds like something salesy, but it's a fact. You order the card. You either order it in Zoom
it's
token.
Just like any of the other cards I carry in my wallet.
That's it. And you can spend any cryptos that I decide to send you. So, Sam, what question do you have for Fiona, if you have any tonight, or what insight would you like to add?
I just wanted to say how great my experience has been with CoinZoom. It's the best exchange that I got to use. I'll reiterate what I've told somebody else in a previous Zoom in a previous space, which was the first time I was in a space with Craig. He literally sent me the link to sign up, and I had a problem signing up because I run my own phone company, and I was having a problem getting the text messages. While we were still in the space, I sent an email to customer support and said, for some reason, I can't get the authorization, the authentication. And they responded within like 5 minutes. And I had my account set up and Craig was able to send me the first little bit that he sent me, which was just it just speaks to the customer service angle, which is always important when you're trying to work with an exchange. I don't know how many other exchanges anybody else on this space has had the pleasure of working with, but a 5-minute response time when trying to set up the account if you run into a problem is unheard of in my experience.
Right. No, I appreciate that. And I love the fact that we now get to do something together, because for the longest time I was like, hey, Sam, check this out. And, we had seen some rough bumps last year in October. And I'm just reminded that, now crypto is safe and it's secure, and being able to utilize my CoinZoom account and the app. The app is probably the most fun, because I get to, before I go to checkout, I can pick whichever of the cryptos that I have in there. And I said I have about 3 to 4 different cryptos. So at any given time, aside from my Zoom token and my USD. So no, it's been a really positive experience. Fiona, it has been an honor to have you on this evening. I think we covered a lot of really great ground. I think we've got some really good marketing insight from you, where we're going to be potentially over the next 12 to 18 months, if you were to kind of take the dart and throw it at the metaphorical board. And I want to thank you for being on tonight, and I want to thank everybody who tuned in. And sorry, I sounded a little bit like a robot, but I think we've got some really great content that we'll be cutting up into some short clips and continuing to make sure that we have CoinZoom front and center. And they are an amazing US regulated crypto exchange with some of the most talented people in the world working on that platform. Thank you so much for watching Craig's Crypto Corner, the best in Web3, blockchain, NFT, and cryptocurrency technologies. Craigo signing off.